Night, the 24th of September 2025. This is going to be a 10-second ASI stack of the Ring Nebula and Lyra. We're going to use this as a baseline to determine the seeing conditions. It's now 8:45. It's a little bit later start than I had hoped, but that's quite all right. Central star, some nice textures around the edge of the Ring Nebula. What we're looking for here is this 14th magnitude plus NGC galaxy, and then there's a 15th magnitude MCG galaxy. I think we're seeing both of them. I can't really be sure about that yet. Let's go ahead and push the magnification up. Anyway, I suspect it's right about there, and the other one is here. And I would like to be seeing the spiral arms at 10 seconds, but maybe we're not seeing it yet tonight, although it's well past sky dark. We're going to go through the 6600 series tonight. Last night, I got a bit of a later start like I am tonight, and we got somewhat cut off from things to the further north than, let's say, 15 degrees declination Hercules, primarily because I got a later start and the rooftri to the west started blocking the views. All right, we've given this baby several passes at 10 seconds. Here's our spiral NGC galaxy, and over here is probably the core of our MCG galaxy. Maybe we'll have a chance to view it again. Let's go and see what adventitious studies we might want to pick up. Oh, in fact, we are getting that faint second star within the Ring Nebula. Interesting. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with 6600 and pick out 15 or 20 studies between 6600 and 6700 that are of interest to us this evening as the sidereal clock continues to spin, but we would ordinarily get an earlier start earlier and earlier in the evening, slowing things down. Let's go ahead and get a start. Okay, what we're seeing here is NGC 6600, a galaxy in Hercules. It's also 6599, magnitude 12.6. So we should have picked this up last night, except it had progressed too late and we were getting blocked by a rooftri, and we're very close to that right now. It's 1.3 by 1.2 arc minutes, a face-on lenticular spiral, 140 million light years distant. Given its smallish size for a 12th magnitude galaxy, 140, I would say it's roughly maybe 50,000 light years in diameter. We're at RA 181542 with a declination of plus 24 degrees, 54 minutes, 44 seconds. Let's do a bit of zoomage. Ooh, I must have moved. I'm going to pause, and then we're going to reconstitute this image. Here's a nice view, only one pass though, of NGC 6600 at 150x. We're pretty much going to limit ourselves to that tonight. The stars don't look too bad. I didn't get much of an opportunity to cool the telescope down, so we may see some focusing distortion. Stars are looking a little distended, however, although the galaxy NGC 6600 quite present in the middle of the screen at 150x. Well, not too far from 6600 was 6602, a fainter galaxy. I'm going to run the magnification up. Once again, we're getting some distortion of the stars. Maybe I've got too much weight on the floor and I'm moving around. I'll pause and redo it, but let me give you the data. 6602, galaxy Hercules, magnitude 14.5, 1 by 0.7 arc minutes, fairly large in apparent size for a magnitude 14.5, spiral with a bar with peculiarities. 143 million light years distant, puts us at about 50,000 light years. Right ascension 181634 with a declination of plus 25 degrees, 2 minutes 37 seconds. Pausing and recapturing a better view of NGC 6602. Given that it's a spiral with a bar and peculiarities, it's got a rather bright core. I would say it's probably a magnitude, maybe a magnitude 13.8 or so visual. 14.5 is likely to be the blue-violet magnitude, which is captured on photographic film for magnitudinal purposes in the past. Well, NGC6610 is a fairly bright galaxy with some nice features in it. Let's do our zoom in. 150x, a little distension on the stars again. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm moving around, but the galaxy looks quite good. I'll go ahead and pause it after I give you the data. 6610, Galaxy Hercules is also 6574. So we might have imaged this the other night. Magnitude 12, 1.5 by 1.1 arc minutes, spiral with bar, lowercase bc. That core looks a little bright for a lowercase bc, but 110 million light years distant, puts it at about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter. Right ascension 181151 with a declination of plus 14 degrees, 58 minutes, 52 seconds. I'm pausing. Why is it things look better the second time I do it? This is once again an NGC 6610 recaptured, the stars looking better. That's our view, a nice brightish core, not stellar in the center, fading off into the directions. Boy, it sure looks more like a face-on spiral of the lenticular class. All right, what we're seeing here, unfortunately, is I've had to really adjust the histogram because we were getting a lot of illumination to the south, is NGC 6611, a nebula and open cluster in Serpens. You know what it is. It's Messier 16. It's the Eagle Nebula with the pillars of creation there in the field. We'll go ahead and take the magnification up a little bit, making it quite clear. Not the best view. It's magnitude 6, 7 arc minutes in size. So what basically 6611 is this open cluster here, not the nebulosity. The brightest stars are 60 stars of magnitude 11 are the brightest. It's a class 2-3, which means it's fairly distinguished from the background stars, but the stars are of disparate magnitude. 5,800 light years distant, right ascension 18 hours, 18 minutes, 48 seconds, declination minus 13 degrees, 48 minutes, and 24 seconds. Second pass, we got some distortion. We got a better view the first pass of 10 seconds. All right, what we have here is NGC 6613, an open cluster in Sagittarius. I suspect we should be seeing nebulosity here as well. Its magnitude is M18, magnitude 6.9, 9 arc minutes in size, some 20 stars, and the brightest are magnitude 8.6, class 2-3, meaning it's fairly well distinguished from the background too, and it's a 3 disparate magnitudes, 4,200 light years distant, right ascension 18, 19, 58, declination minus 17, 607. There's our view. I did resynchronize the scope earlier. This is NGC 6616, Galaxy and Hercules, very close to having some of the aperture blocked. We're at plus 22 degrees, 14 minutes, 16 seconds. This is a magnitude 13.8 galaxy, 1.4 by 0.6, so almost a 3-to-1 spiral with a lowercase ab. Unfortunately, we are still getting this distortion, and I cannot attribute why. There's something wrong possibly with the mount this evening. It's a spiral AB, 248 million light years distant, puts it over 100,000 light years in diameter. I'm going to reinitialize the stack. And here's our reinitialization. There's our galaxy. It's at 18 hours, 17 minutes, 41 seconds with a declination of plus 22 degrees, 14 minutes, 16 seconds. Maybe I'm jumping into the stacks a little soon, but there is our galaxy. I'll put it in the middle of the screen, and just for the heck of it, we will push it up to 180% e-zoom, which is 240x, which pushes the limits of resolution of the 6-inch scope. And meanwhile, if we go to 100% at 300x, we push the amount of light gathering of the ZWO system. And here we have a very thoroughly recognizable Swan Nebula, NGC 6618. However, I have to say, I've never noticed how really dark this lagoon is here in the swan, beneath the swan's head and its neck. Nebula and open cluster in Sagittarius, M17, magnitude 6, 11 arc minutes in size, 40 stars. Must be referring primarily to the open cluster. Hey, that one's holding together pretty good. The cluster itself is magnitude 9.3 of the brightest stars. It's a 3-3, which means it's very hard to pick this open cluster out against the background of stars. 4,200 light years distant, right ascension 182047 with a declination of -16 degrees, 10 minutes, 18 seconds. Not a bad view. I'm going to push this right slider over, darkening the background sky to the point where, as I pointed out in my last video, the curve of the histogram just starts to touch the x-axis. And there is our look at the Swan Nebula. Quite nice, actually. Oh, yes. Here's another look with the stars looking nice and round and sharp. Sorry about the fact they are distorting for some reason with multiple passes. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the nebulosity extended off into these other regions of the view. Very nice, Swan. Come ahead, swim in the John Day River or at the pond in the 7th Street Park. Okay, it looks like we're getting a pretty sharp view, a bit off center, of NGC 6626, also known as Messier 28. We'll zoom in a little bit. The stars are looking roundish. It looked prettier at a lower magnification. Let's try that. 6626, globular cluster Sagittarius, M28, magnitude 6.9, 15 arc minutes in size, so quite present. Magnitude 12 are its brightest stars. You can see them there. It's a class 4, so fairly condensed. 19,000 light years distant, right ascension 182432 with a declination of -245206. That's not a bad view. We're still getting a little bit of a distension on the stars. However, I'll give you another second. Okay, here's our one-pass view of NGC 6626. Looks like I'll be doing a lot of this evening for some odd reason. Okay, we're looking for another one of those planetary nebula, and the best way to tell them is by their colors, and I suspect this is what it is. I'm going to pause for a second and let this image reassemble. NGC 6629 will give you some clues. Planetary nebula in Sagittarius, magnitude 10.5, 16 by 14 arc seconds, magnitude 12.9 central star, 7,700 light years distant with a right ascension of 1825.42, declination -23 degrees, 12 minutes, 9 seconds. We're not getting much out of this. We can just look for color. Sorry. Okay, what we're looking for here is a galaxy, and I think I just found it. It's a 1 by 1 arc minute size galaxy in Hercules, magnitude 14.5, showing brightest core with an aura around it. It's a lenticular spiral, as you might expect based on that view, 231 million light years distant. So it's about 50,000 light years, maybe 70,000 light years in diameter. Right ascension 1827.37 with a declination of +14 degrees, 49 minutes, 6 seconds. And we're pretty close to losing some aperture on it. I noticed that after several passes, apparently we are not getting any triangulations to stack images for some reason, and I'm not sure why that is the case. Here's our 150x image of NGC 6635, something I seem to have to do quite a bit of because stacking is not making nice circular stars this very evening. Well, if you ever wondered what a 2-2 middling described open cluster looks like, this is NGC 6649 in Scutum. Magnitude 8.96 arc minutes in size, some 50 stars. Brightest are magnitude 11.6. It's a 2-2. That means a Roman letter 2, distinguishable from its background 2, fairly moderately disparate in magnitudes. 4,500 light years distant. RA 1833.27 with a declination of -1024.12. Our region of actually being able to make out decent views is getting narrower and narrower. It is now 9:16 in the evening as things progress further to the west. Here we have probably the largest, brightest, although it's fairly close, globular cluster visible from 45 degrees north. This is NGC 6656, globular cluster in Sagittarius, and if you guessed it's Messier 22, you nailed it. Magnitude 5.2, 24 arc minutes in size. Brightest stars are quite bright, magnitude 10.7, which tells you how close this one is. It's a class 7, which says it's really not highly compressed with stars, 10,000 light years distant. That puts it about 3,000 light years further away than Messier 4 near Antares in Scorpius. It's a class 7, as I mentioned. Right ascension is 1836.24, declination minus 2354.17, and the only reason we're getting a good view this far south is because I played with the histogram. What we're looking for here is NGC 6683, an open cluster in Scutum. Magnitude 9.4, 11 arc minutes in size. Brightest stars are magnitude 11.7. It's a class 1, Roman numeral 2, and I do not see that that could possibly be a class 1 because it is not easily distinguished from its background sky. Maybe, just maybe, if we back out, now on the histogram, we might make more sense of it. It's supposed to be 11 arc minutes in size. It could be over here. I had a stall in the mount. I had to repark it. Anyway, 3,900 light years distant, right ascension 1842.12 with a declination of minus 6, 17 minutes and 0 seconds. That is our, why, the mount is just not tracking very well. Very interesting. Maybe I'll tighten up the clutches a little bit and see what's going on. It's perfectly balanced, however. I'm going to tighten the clutches. Well, here's that second view of the cluster to snapshot after we had the distortion of the stars earlier. I'm going to let it run for just a second as I pick out my next study just to see if it distorts again on its own volition, or maybe whether I am doing something precarious with it. The clutches were pretty tight. I'm going through the catalog now, and there's hardly anything. Lots of galaxies in Draco, and further north, Lyra and Hercules, but not much that's accessible. Well, Messier 26 is, so why don't we go to that next? Okay, let's watch this with a couple of passes. This is Messier NGC 6694, open cluster Scutum. It's also Messier 26, magnitude 8, 15 arc minutes in size, some 30 stars. It's kind of visible right over there. We've been getting some driftage. 52, it's a class 1, so easily distinguished. We are getting distortion of those stars. I'm going to pause for a second. A class 1. The stars don't look, well, the background stars do, but there's some foreground stars that are pretty bright. It's easily distinguished from the background, that's for sure. We're at right ascension, brightest stars are magnitude 10.3. Right ascension, 18 hour, 45 minutes, 18 seconds with a declination of minus 9 degrees, 23 minutes. And that is our view. And it stayed pretty sharp after I reiterated the capture and the stacking. Well, we're still hanging in there on Messier 26, NGC 6694. I've been through the rest of the catalog. We are not tracking very well. I will have to check the balance on the scope tomorrow. I will not be doing that tonight. It's now 9:30 in the evening. We've exhausted all the studies that are within the range for our westering project here. What I'll do is I'll go back to the Ring Nebula. We'll have a look at that and see if what we can make out of the galaxies. But if the mount's not tracking, we're going to have some real problems there. But if it does track, it's because the mount's pretty much looking straight overhead. Well, folks, as it turned out, the Ring Nebula was already too far progressed, so I went after what we see before you there, the Dumbbell Nebula. Go 2 is not working out very well. I'm going to have to go ahead and redo a 3-star alignment, and I'll have to balance the scope on the declination and right ascension axes tomorrow, should I get a chance and the sky is clear enough to do so. But here is our view of Messier 27. Beautiful frontiers with the bulging on the axis. This is the equatorial zone. This is the polar zones. Magnetic field effects are creating this dispersion in the view. It's very, very nice. I could have a nice look at the Crescent Nebula tonight, but look at the stars. They are sustaining pretty well, which tells me there probably is an imbalance on one of the axes because the scope is nearly pointing overhead. So I'm going to say Carpe Noctem on this one, but let's have a look at 6888, JIC. Well, our view of NGC 6888 is also displaced to the bottom right-hand quadrant of the field. I will have to spend some time on the building a model and rebalancing the scope. And with that, once again, I reiterate Carpe Noctem.